What causes bipolar disorder? Bipolar disorder is a disorder of mood regulation and has a number of known causes. There are also a number of theories that can help explain how the illness occurs. The first thing to say when thinking about the causes of bipolar is to appreciate that it is a very complex condition. In fact, many authorities recognise it is the most complex of all psychiatric conditions. As a result of this complexity, there are many known causes and theories to explain the condition. Let's have a look at some of these now. First of all, brain circuits. The brain is made up of very large numbers of cells that form a complex network of brain circuits. These circuits have various functions and act together so that the brain, as a whole, functions as a complete mind consciousness. Mood is complex and affected by many things, both outside the body, inside the body, and inside the brain. Day-to-day experience tells us this. Since bipolar disorder is a dysfunction of mood regulation, it stands to reason that there are many brain circuits involved in this problem. A simpler way of looking at this is to consider all of these brain circuits acting as a mood thermostat. However, unlike the thermostat of the house, which tends to be in one particular room, the mood thermostat is linked to many biological functions in the body and the brain. The result of this is that when different circuits go wrong, varying mood states can occur, such as mania, hypomania, depression, and all the associated feelings that can go with them. Next, neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are the chemicals that help brain cells communicate with each other. The neurotransmitters involved in bipolar disorder, for example dopamine, has a role in both hypomania and depression, and as a result, drugs that affect dopamine levels can play a role in treating these. GABA and glutamate also play an important role. GABA is the main inhibitory neurotransmitter that acts to calm down brain cells, making it harder for them to fire. Sedative drugs and anti-epileptic drugs both affect GABA systems. Glutamate is the main excitatory neurotransmitter in the brain. When glutamate levels are too high, it is thought that the brain cells and brain circuits can become damaged. Lithium and sodium valproate, commonly used mood stabilizer, influence the levels of GABA and glutamate. Intracellular dysfunction. The insides of brain cells are also extremely complicated. There are different structures within the cells that have particular functions, such as protein generation, energy production, and the reading of the genetic code. There are chemical circuits within cells that act to communicate between these structures, known as organelles, and also act to communicate information through the cell when chemicals act on receptors in the cell membrane. There are a number of different defects in a variety of these circuits and connections between them that are known in bipolar disorder. Furthermore, we know that many of the drugs used to treat bipolar disorder help to correct these. Genetics. Bipolar disorder is passed between generations as a genetic illness. How this happens is complex, as there are a number of genes implicated in the condition. It is also the case that different people with bipolar disorder may express these genes differently, and this may be why there are different types of bipolar. Some of the genes implicated, such as the CACNA1C gene, involve cell membrane channels such as the calcium channel, which then alters the way this metal salt moves into cells and organelles. One key organelle involved here might be the mitochondria, whose job is to generate energy. Another implicated gene is the ANC3 gene, involved in neurotransmitter release in the brain area known as the hippocampus, whose function includes memory and how this interrelates to emotion. The clock genes and other genes related to the circadian rhythm genes, which regulate the day-night cycle and other daily and seasonal routines. Early symptoms in bipolar often involve their function, and so changes in sleep pattern can occur as an early relapse sign. Again, some drugs, such as lithium, are thought to play a role in correcting these faults. Epigenetics. Your genes do not act alone in determining who you are. They are also affected by the environment and how your brain is developed over time to determine how your mind works. If you have a mental illness, then it can be caused by any of these aspects. Research in both animals and humans show that stress can have an impact on us from within the womb, whilst we are babies, and as we develop in childhood. These are thought to be epigenetic processes that become long-standing changes in our resilience throughout life. The role of stress. Everybody with bipolar knows that stress can play an enormous role in the illness. Managing your stress is often the key to staying well. Biology tells us that stress and our resilience to it is determined by genetic, epigenetic and environmental factors as we develop. Brain-body circuits, such as the HPA axis or hypothalamo-pituitary-adrenal axis, determine and regulate the production of action and stress hormones in the body depending on our mood and what is happening to us. Adrenaline and cortisol are the most well-known hormones, and when their production is excessive and chronic, it can lead to both mental and physical problems. The increased rates of heart disease, strokes and cancer in bipolar disorder is probably mediated through this means. Oxidative stress. We said earlier that some structures in the brain cells are responsible for generating energy. These are called mitochondria and are known to be defective in bipolar disorder. Mitochondria work by turning nutrition of various types into chemical energy that can be used by the cell to carry out its various functions of life. In bipolar disorder, this function is, for some reason, inefficient and is also susceptible to stress. Under stress, the mitochondria are even less efficient at producing energy, and this is believed to have widespread effects on both the brain and body in bipolar. This defect appears to be a central pathology of the condition, which can also occur in unipolar depression, albeit to a lesser extent. This effect is known as oxidative stress and leads to an excess of oxygen-free radicals in cells, which in turn cause damage to other structures in the cells, as well as the insulating myelin sheath in brain cell nerves. Next, let's look at inflammation. Many studies have now shown that lots of chemicals called cytokines, usually produced in infections, are markedly increased in bipolar disorder. This inflammation is known to affect certain neurotransmitters and also how the brain grows. In particular, the inflammation seems to affect certain chemical processes in the brain cells responsible for gluing the brain together as a whole. These are known as glial cells. Serotonin Usually the main treatment pathway used by antidepressants are blocked by this inflammation, and this could be the reason why antidepressants are so often ineffective in bipolar depression. So in summary, we have looked at a number of causes of bipolar disorder: brain circuits, neurotransmitters, intracellular pathways, genetics, epigenetics, stress, oxidative stress, and inflammation.